Hi everyone, I am doing my foundation collection today, and it's not like a top foundations, it just happens to be all the foundations I own in the drugstore category. So I'll be giving you a little review of them as I talk about them, because just because I own them it doesn't necessarily mean I love them, as you will find out. So a few things you'll want to know first. My skin type and what I am looking for in a foundation. So I have dry skin, I'm 31, so I definitely want a foundation that doesn't enhance wrinkles and pores, and my skin is pretty sensitive, as I always go on about, I know, and I'm looking for something normally that's medium coverage. If it's a night out, maybe full coverage, because I am prone to blemishes and redness as well, so definitely bear that in mind when I'm giving you my reviews. And another thing you may notice is I have quite a variety of different shades. So I could lie to you and say I have intentionally bought all the different shades for when I am in various states of fake tan, but in reality I've made a few mistakes when buying shades, but it's turned out alright because I can wear some of them when I'm fake tanned. The mistake I was making is when I was going into a high-end shop or at a high-end counter and they were matching me for the shade, I was always a lighter shade, but I was never the lightest, and I was making the mistake of assuming I wouldn't be the lightest in a drugstore collection, but of course their shade range is much more limited, and it turns out I am usually the lightest shade. So anyway, that's a brief explanation as to how I've learned to find the right shade. So I will actually get into showing you the foundations now. This is the Lasting Perfection Ultimate Wear Foundation. It's SPF 20 and I have it in shade 1 Porcelain. I bought this on the back of enjoying the Lasting Perfection concealer. I didn't actually read any reviews about it before I bought it, and when I did start to read reviews afterwards I saw that mainly they were negative. However, I quite like this foundation. Positive points: love the coverage, it's medium to full, it lasts really well, you almost don't need to wear concealer with it. In fact, sometimes I don't, not on blemishes, if I'm wearing this, and if I do use the collection concealer on it, it lasts even better, the concealer does, than if I wear it with other foundations. It's no fragrance or minimal fragrance, so if you don't like the funny smell of foundation, then you will like that about this. On the downside, it requires careful application. I found it has a tendency to cake, so you can only really put one layer on, and it does have a slight sticky feeling to it, so it's not necessarily the most comfortable foundation to wear all day, and the SPF in it does give a really dramatic white cast, so it's definitely a daytime foundation or one to wear when you're not being photographed with flash photography. So overall, I don't wear this all the time, but I definitely reach for it on days where I'm needing more coverage, especially if I haven't got any fake tan on, because it's perfect for me when I am my natural skin tone. This is the Bourjois Healthy Mix Serum Foundation, and I bought this after reading loads of blog posts and seeing loads of YouTube videos, and also getting personal recommendation that this was an amazing foundation. And I have to say, overall I was disappointed with this, and I've got this one in the shade 53, slightly too dark unless I've got a little bit of fake tan on. So even so, the plus points first of all for me is the shade range is probably better than the average drugstore foundation. There's not just the sort of 4 or 5 shades, I think there's more than that, and they do go through quite a nice range from pale to dark, so that's good. It's got a lovely fragrance, it's like a nice fruity fragrance, but I'm kind of clutching at straws here to think of positive things to say about it, I'm afraid, because it's just not suitable for me. The coverage is light, so for me it's not quite enough coverage. I will say that when you first put it on, it looks lovely. There is a beautiful, flawless effect, but it does not last on my skin at all. I find after a couple of hours, it's really faded. And more than that, it fades patchily and it clings to a lot of my dry patches. And you know when you wear a foundation all day and you take your makeup off at night, and you look on your makeup pad or your cleansing pad or whatever and you think, where is the makeup? It's gone. This is one of those. So this is not one I will be buying again. I do reach for it sometimes if perhaps I'm just going to work and I'm not really bothered about what I look like, which sounds a bit weird, but I don't like to waste it. I'm not going to throw it away. So yeah, this wasn't a winner for me, but I do know lots of other people who love it, so it obviously depends on your skin type and what you're looking for. This is the L'Oreal Nutrilift Gold Anti-Aging Serum Foundation. So another serum foundation like the Bourjois, but this one I've got a lot more positive things to say about. I did do a first impressions video of this, which I'll link below. I had mixed feelings about it first of all, but generally positive. The more I've got to know it, the more I've been wearing it, the more I have enjoyed it. And you can see because it's pretty messy, the packaging, so I've clearly been using it. And I've got this in the shade Rose Beige, which is a little bit too dark. I can wear it if I've got fake tan, but I do want to go back and get this in a lighter shade now because I am enjoying it so much. The coverage is really, really good. It's medium to full again, covers blemishes nicely, evens out my skin tone nicely, so love that. I do find it to be very, very long lasting. It's literally one of those ones that you can put on in the morning and not have to touch up all day, so that is always a positive for me. The finish is my perfect kind of finish. It's sort of semi-dewy, would you say? It's not matte, it's not too shiny, but it gives me a little bit of a glow and that healthy look. It doesn't settle into the lines and the pores, which is what I love. It is anti-aging, and I assume that is why it doesn't do that. So it's definitely a good foundation for somebody who is worried about the early signs of aging. And I do also find it gives you that sort of skin plumping effect. I mean, obviously you're not going to look like you've had Botox or some sort of chemical peel, but it just gives my skin a really, really healthy look. If I was going to say negative things about it or what the downsides were, I'd say the scent is a bit chemically, so if that puts you off, you might not like this foundation, but it's not a deal breaker for me. The colour range is a bit weird. I really struggled. I remember standing for ages at the counter, struggling to find a shade that looked right. There was a lot of pinky shades, not many yellowy shades, so depending on your skin undertone, it might be hard for you to find a shade that suits. And it does have a very slight tendency to cake. I have heard that it is better to apply it with a beauty sponge, which I don't actually have. So that apparently sorts out the cakiness completely. But if you just apply it carefully with a brush, then it's no problem. So that one is one of my faves. Sticking on the L'Oreal theme, this is the L'Oreal Nude Magique CC cream. So not a foundation, but a CC cream. I bought this summer because I wanted something with a bit of a lighter coverage for during the day and at work. It doesn't actually come in shades. It comes in 3 different effects depending what your problem area is, and I can't remember what the other 2 are. I think one's anti-fatigue, I can't remember the other one, and this one's anti-redness. So the shade range is definitely limited. So if I start with the negatives, that's the main one really, because on my skin type this goes too orange and too dark, and I have read reviews of people that have enjoyed this and it has suited them, that have very much an olive skin tones. So considering that this is meant to be for all skin types, clearly it's not going to suit everybody. So I can wear it if I've got fake tan on, but if not, I can't. So that's the downside to me. However, it's not a bad CC cream apart from the colour. It's so easy to apply. I just apply it with my fingers, so it's really, really quick. So it's great for work if you're in a rush in the morning. It does last quite well, not as long as any of these full coverage foundations or medium coverage foundations, but you'd expect that. It's meant to be a lighter coverage in the first place. It does even out my redness as it promises, but the other downside I would say is the shininess. It's really, really, really shiny, and that's on me with dry skin, so I have to powder it. Most foundations I don't normally have to. So I don't know how suitable this would be for someone with more combination or oily skin. So overall not bad, but there's probably better CC creams out there. I haven't really tried many yet, so any recommendations, do let me know. This is the newest of the Drugstore foundations I own, and it's the number 7 Essentially Natural Foundation, and I have it in the colour Calico, which is the lightest shade. I was actually colour matched for this, so I know this suits me well, and it's another thing that's confirmed to me that normally I just need to get the lightest shade in Drugstore foundations. So that takes me on to the first positive point about this. Number 7 is the only drugstore or high street brand that I know will colour match you for a foundation. So immediately that's a huge plus point. And not only that, when I actually looked at the shades they had available, I think there was about 15 shades, and I can't think of any other high street or drugstore brand again that has that many shades. So it rivals the high-end products for those reasons. It describes it as a light to medium coverage. I would say it's more on the end of medium. It's definitely buildable though, so you can probably get a light or medium coverage out of it depending on how you apply it. Having said that, definitely a natural finish, doesn't cake at all, love it for that, and it's really, really long lasting. The length of time a foundation lasts is one of the most important things for me, and this is one that when I take off at the end of the day, it probably looks as good as it did first thing in the morning, if I've been using a setting spray, I must add. I do like the packaging. I know it's not very glamorous, but this makes it really easy for travel and throwing in your handbag because it's a squeezy tube, a screw bottle, and it's plastic, so it's not going to break, it's not going to, hopefully, spill all over your makeup bag. So I do like the packaging, even though it's not the most glamorous you've ever seen. And the only downside or point to be aware of, I would say, on this so far is the use of powder. With having dry skin, if I powder it, I find it makes it look a bit too dry. However, if I don't powder, by the end of the day there is a little bit of shine. So what I've been doing is I've not been powdering, and I've been taking powder out with me just in case I need to touch it up a bit. So that's the only thing to be aware of, but overall I love this so far, and for the price I think this is my favourite of the Drugstore foundations that I own. And finally, a foundation that is talked about all over the place, and it's the Rimmel Wake Me Up foundation, and I actually have this in 2 shades. So that does suggest to you that it's one that I like. I originally bought it in 200 soft beige when I hadn't learnt what shades are best for me. I do still wear this when I've got a tan, but I have to have a full-on fake tan to get away with this. And I went and picked it up in my actual true shade, which is 100 Ivory, which again is the lightest shade that they do in this foundation. So this used to be my favourite foundation until I got the lighter shade and until I got that number 7 one. So I'll explain why. So when I was using the darker shade, I loved it. Obviously I had to have fake tan on with it, but it goes on beautifully, really glowy dewy finish, lasts really well, covers imperfections well, doesn't need powdering if you've got dry skin, and overall I just loved it, and it was probably the only foundation that I bought from a drugstore that I would have repurchased at the time. However, when I bought it in the lighter shade, I didn't find that all those properties were as strong in it. If you found the same, then let me know. I suppose just because it's lighter, I didn't find it made me as dewy, as glowy, as healthy looking. It still lasts really, really well. And I do find it has the tendency to cling to dry patches a little bit more than the other shades. So I do still love it, and I do still wear it a lot. In fact, this one and the number 7 are the 2 that I wear sort of every day for work. But yeah, I found it quite interesting how the 2 different shades didn't work for me quite as well in terms of the actual formula. So I hope you found the overview of my drugstore foundations helpful. I know I haven't got the biggest collection in the world, but not necessarily the smallest collection in the world either. It's quite a manageable size for me at the moment. I will mention that there was one other drugstore foundation I bought recently, which was the Maybelline Better Skin foundation, and I found it completely unsuitable for dry skin. It clung to my dry patches and didn't last very well, but I've heard great reviews on that for people with combination skin, so I've actually given that away to my mum, who has got more combination skin. So anyway, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and please subscribe for weekly videos, almost always beauty. I throw a little bit of fashion in there, and I do the occasional tag as well. So hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Hi everyone, I'm going a bit off topic today and doing the British tag because I really like the tag, and because I was tagged by the lovely Hannah. She's got a great channel, I will link it below, so go and have a look at her channel as well, and her British tag video.